Good morning and welcome to Tuesday Titans Live. This is Randy Byrd, and I'm very excited to bring you the show today. Today we have live in the house Don Yoakum. Don Yoakum, his bio is 5 pages long, so I'm going to summarize some of his accomplishments. But one of the biggest things, let me put this so I can see it. One of the things that are most valuable to me about Don is the fact that Don was from 1978 to 89 a windsurfing professional Olympic team champion. Not once, but 3-time national champion in windsurfing, a 3-year member of the U.S. Olympic training team, 1 world title, pretty amazing if you think about that, and consistently top 10 ranking in the professional World Cup circuit in that sport. And as I read the rest of the resume, you're going to see winners win. They find ways to win, and there's no exception for Don. So from roughly in the 90s, he was a RE/MAX agent. His very first year at RE/MAX, and I know you're a humble guy, Don, but let me get through this. First year at RE/MAX, top 1% RE/MAX's first full year, closed 51 transactions in his first full year of business. Really achieved the 100% club, which is top 1% of RE/MAX. Later went through some financial institution, training, managing, coaching, led a sales team of almost 13 reps at Financial Title, up to a 13% market share, which in that space, that's a huge number. So you're going to see a pattern of winning through this guy's career. Now he leads into real estate where he aligns in about 2000 with Keller Williams as a manager and owner, built 10 offices from the ground up, which, by the way, those 10 offices are still successful offices, one of them being the most successful office in the franchise. And you can correct me if any of these things are out of line, but when I was doing some of the research and due diligence on you, Don, it's really amazing the career you've had. And so I'm super excited to transition today and talk about that. But before that, you left Keller Williams and started really consulting and coaching through the lending, realtors, lending, branch managers, tech startups, kind of along all those thought leaders, if you will, including coaching, one of the top Keller Williams agents in the whole franchise, not only number 1 in the world, but 7 out of 15 years number 1. So that's a huge accomplishment. I may want to talk to you about coaching me in that regard. But, and then obviously transitioning through the real estate space, through lending and business leaders and owners, and now you're the owner of your own coaching company. I'm going to have you verticals and spaces, but really bringing these titans to the industry to help us explain how they won. And it started at a young age for Don, obviously with the Olympics, and moving up through your transitional to pro insight coaching now. So with that, welcome to the show, Don Yoakum. How are you today?
Thank you, Randy. I think I'm going to have to hire you as my PR guy.
I'm available, baby. I'm available. It's so fun for me doing this show and bringing the energy and excitement to the guests that we've been blessed to have. We just had, some really amazing guests in the last couple months, and adding you to that repertoire, adding you to that history of speakers and guests that I've had on the show is really my blessing. I'm grateful to have you here, and I'm really excited to dive in and talk about some of the things that are really working for you. And frankly, I think that there's a certain segment of people that are going to be really attracted to this particular show. So with that, I'm excited to get started. So did I miss anything? I know you're a very humble guy, but did I miss anything in the intro?
Well, you obviously highlighted my great accomplishments, right? You didn't mention that I had tips in there, just like anybody in life. I had my challenges, and life hasn't always been about just one never-ending success after another. A lot of the accomplishments, frankly, that you mentioned were hard fought for me,
right,
and took an amazing amount of resilience in order to achieve. And so I don't want to leave people with the impression that one just comes into these things and just wins. Let me tell you, man, I win, and then I do okay, and then I win again, and then I get body slammed. Okay.
Right.
The difference, I think, with me versus some other folks may be that I get back up off the mat, dust myself off, attempt to learn from experience, realign myself with the right people, with the right mission, and go again. And if I could leave your listeners with anything, it would be that no matter what happens in your life, if you stay true to just doing your best, not being attached to the outcome, that it will serve you well and you'll make a big difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that. And again, your humility stands out to me, but we've all been knocked down. And I think that's grit. That grit, and the word grit to me, especially being a military guy and being a disciplined, structured guy. I mean, I've looked at my past life and it's easy to feel like a failure at times, but the outside world looking in is like, that guy's golden. No matter what he touches turns to gold. Not from my perspective, man. It was like, I got bloody knuckles from dragging my damn arms all these years. But it is interesting that you bring that up because, when we look at the highlight of that and the overall piece of our career, it's failing forward. It's not giving up, it's failing forward. And frankly, that's why you were invited to the Tuesday Titans. You are a Titan in the industry. And, I'm sure the listeners want to hear a little bit about some of those successes, specifically around how you persevered and moved through some of those adversities. So as we move in, I'd like to start the show a little cool and just ask a couple questions to get it kind of highlighted and moving forward. But one of the things I love is, what are you reading right now? What are like 2 or 3 books you're really tracking with, something that is, inspiring you as a thought leader in this industry? What's going on for you?
For sure, the book that has had the greatest influence on me of late is Atomic Habits by James Clear. That book does a better job, in my opinion, of helping people, including myself, understand how to build great small habits that build into something really significant, and how to rid yourself of bad ones. I've just never seen such a clean, good, simple articulation of that, although there have been several books on this subject, right? But this guy really nailed it. As you know, we incorporated that into our organization. We have a little tribe now building Atomic Habits. And I really believe that it's about the mastery of the basics. And what I have found is that success is actually quite simple, but it's the willingness to do those simple things day in and day out and examine what you're doing. And as Eric, another fantastic author, by the way, I've recently read his book, Peak, which I would strongly recommend. He's a gentleman prior to Malcolm Gladwell that had popularized the idea of achieving mastery through 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. And I want you to hear the term I use, deliberate practice, because you're not going to be able to just show up for 10,000 hours and become a master at something.
Right.
You're going to have to examine what the best people in that field are doing, copy them, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you have attained those basic success principles and you're achieving some level of success, then you can personalize it to your unique ability so that you can then take it to the very highest level of which is capable for you, right? But it starts with these very simple little practices, which James Clear speaks to. And then if you apply that with deliberate practice, like Anders Ericsson speaks to, dude, you're going to be a rock star and no one's going to stop you.
That's a great point. You just named 2 or 3 really, monster books that teach that mindset and the discipline principles. What would you say would be one takeaway from Atomic Habits that you have?
Well, if you want to have good habits, it's important that you make it easy to maintain them. And so you would, for example, I get up at 4:45 every morning, okay? It's a little early for me, to be candid.
Yeah.
My natural wake-up time would probably be 5:30, okay? But at that time in the morning, it's dark, okay? I've got, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go swim masters. I got my swim stuff all ready. There's no climb through the closet trying to keep things quiet and dark for my wife. I've got it all set. I can grab it and go, okay?
Right.
And then, the other thing that has been helpful to me is by aligning myself with different groups of folks. For example, if I don't show up Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, some of the masters folks learn, where in the heck is Don, right? So there's a little bit of that here, accountability and also camaraderie. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I do a bike workout at the gym that works on a lot of core exercises. And so I have a different group for that. And then on the weekends, I've got a buddy that just kicks my butt on the bike, which is another thing, by the way,
Right.
is choose people to do these things with that are just a little bit better than you, okay? So I want to know I'm not trying to go out there and ride with a world-class cyclist. I'm going out there and I'm riding with someone 5, 10, 15, maybe 2% better than me. If I go further than that, as much as it would be nice to learn from someone so great, it's frustrating for me and for them, right? And so I want to be able to relate to what they're doing and then think, okay, well, gosh, I'm not that far off. If I lost a few more pounds, maintained just a bit better diet, I might be able to get on this guy's heels.
That's a great takeaway, because if you're with somebody that's just double as good as you are, it's going to frustrate and you're going to tap out of that versus, and on the other side of the spectrum, if you're with somebody that's half as good as you, you're going to back off and lay off your workouts because you can, so I think that's a really important maybe nugget or takeaway, to find people your accountability level that is helping you level up a little bit, but also kind of commensurate with your place you're at.
100%. And I would tell you, actually, another fantastic book, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And one of the things that Ryan speaks about is a strategy that Frank Shamrock uses, who has been a world-class UFC fighter, is that what you'd want to do is he has a plus minus equal system. Okay. So what it is about is you do want to train with somebody that is a little bit better than you, so you can learn from them. Right. Okay. Then you want to go at it with somebody that is at your, who knows who's going to win. Right. And that keeps it really interesting.
Wow.
And then you want to also pay it forward and train somebody that is not at your level, but would like to be. And so, they often will say teacher is the one that learns the most. And so that's the minus. So plus equal minus is a phenomenal system for accelerated learning and growth.
Wow. I like it. That's beautiful. So next question. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life specifically?
Getting up early and having a very structured routine. I mentioned to you, I get up at 4:45. Right. I have a lemon water. I study Spanish for 45 minutes, and then I either go to swim or I go to my spin class. And it's the same thing every single day. On Sunday, I have a day of rest and I sleep until 5:30. Okay. But I'm not going and doing some work.
So I sleep all the way in until the sun's still not up.
Well, yeah. Okay. By the way, I would, if I could, I would love to sleep till 9 a.m. It just, for whatever reason, my mind starts going and
I'm wired that way.
It's useless.
I think it probably started with the Olympics, like we talked about in the beginning, So, I love that. I love that idea that, you're disciplined, and it's kind of a military thing. So we're doing the 75 hard together, and we've been connecting with that. By the way, one of your coaching clients is my accountability partner. My mistake. This guy's texting me at 3:53 in the morning asking for my daily sheet. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's just a whole new level, right? It's a whole new level of when you look at somebody like the number one past Keller Williams agent in the world, where do they operate at, right? What's their baseline? And then they have good days, bad days, but what their baseline is 10 times sometimes what a normal person's baseline is. So it recalibrates my baseline. And so now my baseline is blowing people out of the water that are not used to my new baseline, right? So I really find that fascinating. And that contest has really created those atomic habits that you helped us provide and put into discipline. But it's reactive to so many other areas of my business now. It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
Today's day 51 of the 75 hard, and the disciplines that I put in my business are literally going to be impactful for the rest of my life. I know for sure, because I know what it tastes like now to have those disciplines and see the success associated with them. So, I love that. I love that piece of, of it.
Well, and though I say, Randy, that even though, we've been Tom is thinking of being the early riser who you're speaking about. And you know what I have noticed of Tom that separates him from so many other people, and why he's been able to become literally the number one agent in the world on 7 occasions that for the franchise that he was with, KW, is he is very consistent. He actually doesn't do anything really spectacular, except that it is extraordinary in its consistency, right? He just is relentless, and he isn't going to give up, and he is going to go for it 100% all the time. But even he goes to church with his family, and on Sunday he watches his daughter's games on the week. He does catch his breath, right? He's not scoring any points on the weekend. Right. I actually work a little bit on Saturday just to make up for the fact that he's smoking in the week.
Wow. Yeah, right. I know. He's risen my bar so significantly. And honestly, I thought I operated at a pretty high level. I thought I was pretty much had my shit together until I have an accountability partner like him and you. So, I mean, I'm blessed by it. It's it's just that leveling up. I just love that piece of it. So I'd like to ask you a little bit about, we talked in the introduction, you built 10 offices from the ground up. That's no small feat. I have built an office from the ground up, and it's not a small undertaking. And to have 10 of those that you've done, tell a little bit to the listeners. Maybe there's a lot of independent brokerages that have their own office and they're struggling against the changing world. I talk about this in my coaching. I'm a coach for a national real estate company, and now I just started my own coaching practice, and I'm really focused on what the great minds think about the future. And we're heading into real estate winter, and it's not winter like rain, sleet, and snow. It's 10 years of summer, of real estate summer. Winter follows summer, right? So as we head into that, it's hard to say, is it 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? We don't know. We're not going to have the 2007 impact that we did because of the financing and the implosion of the loan and secondary loan markets. But we are heading to a transitional phase. And so as we head into that, and you have built so many of these successful offices that are still highly productive and highly successful in another model, being at Keller Williams, what do you see maybe for the traditional brokerages in the future and the changing market, the shift into 2020 and beyond?
Well, first of all, I would just say that my being able to build those market centers came as a result of getting in business with the right people, right? So I didn't build those offices myself. I was able to attract a great leader to build those market centers. The only one that I did as a team leader was Roseville, right?
Which happens to be the number one office. Is that correct?
It was, yes.
Yeah. I think they reached number one in the world as the franchised office or as a independent office of Keller Williams, and then also in profitability, I believe.
Yeah, they were for a time. They're not today. They are still one of the top offices, but they did reach that level, which is magnificent. And again, even though I laid the foundation for that, I want to make sure that the proper people receive credit. That there were leaders that came behind me that took that on even greater height and made that possible. And that's really the key, I think, is if all you want in life is to make money and be a salesperson, just put your head down and just grind, baby.
Right.
Okay. But if you want to create something of significance, you're going to want to find yourself with an opportunity that will attract the greatest talent. And then you go out and introduce that talent to your opportunity. Bringing those together creates magic. And back in the day, that magic was occurring at Keller Williams. Okay. Today, I believe it's occurring at EXP. Okay. But wherever you believe that is the best alignment for you and the business model that would serve the folks with which you are going to align with, that's what you should run. And I think to your point, we are coming up. We're in a cresting right now. Okay. So after summer comes fall.
Right.
Okay. We're in fall right now in most parts of the country.
Right.
Okay. And that cresting will typically occur for about a year, and then it will drop. The market will drop. Okay. But the difference this time, and I agree with you, I don't think we're going to see a 2007, 2008 crash like we did, which was largely brought on by a lot of really poor lending practices.
Yeah.
But what I do think we're going to see is going to be even more severe to the brokerage community. And I'll tell you why. Because what I've noticed is that there's been a material compression of commission between the agent and the consumer. Okay. The agents as a whole are making less on a transaction as a percent. And there's also been a margin compression between the agent and the broker. So the brokers are not charging as much as they used to.
Right. They have to be competitive, right?
Yeah. Now, the only thing that has kept this whole model as we have had for these last decades together is a phenomenal, basically since 2012, we had just a tailwind environment, right?
Right.
Okay, well, now the wind isn't a tailwind. It's basically, this is the calm before the storm right now, baby.
It's totally
and I believe we'll be facing a headwind next year. Well, that's the third shoe to drop. That will create the perfect storm. And those folks that are operating in a nominal profit situation are probably facing, hopefully, just a nominal loss. Maybe some of them can still squeak out a nominal profit. It'll depend on the economics of their situation and the structure and so forth. But I would say that we've got to take a really hard look at what adds value to the consumer. Okay, if you have an expense in your brokerage that does not translate to value for the consumer or the agent that works in your brokerage, it's got to go, man. If you're going to compete with the likes of an Amazon or perhaps a Zillow in the future, there is no room for fluff. Okay, and so I'm not expecting some of these big name brokerages to go out of business, but I am expecting them to have to go through a major restructuring in order to progress into the next market cycle.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. The last guest I had on my show was Sean Kokoska. Sean was very well known at Keller Williams, was head of MAPS coaching. His mom, Diana Kokoska, is still at Keller Williams. He's recently transitioned over to eXp Realty, which shocked the world, frankly. And in his interview, he said something that gave me goosebumps. Basically, he said, the traditional model is coming to an end. And he goes from a very high level, because he was at the pinnacle of Keller Williams and that company, number one company on the planet. But he said the traditional model is going to come to an end. There's just too many pressures and too many disruptions in the market for them to follow that current path. And it gave me goosebumps, because you think about that. You have 100-year-old companies that are literally scrambling, and their stock prices are in the tank, all the way down to $5. Realogy was that has the big brands. And this is a broker agnostic show, right? This is not a pitch for any specific brand, depending on what shirt you're wearing. I view this as a informational and talent show. Mm-hmm. But hearing him say that really brought to the attention that really we have effectively a category 1 storm out in the Gulf right now circling, right? And that it's turned into fall, like you said, and it's just circling out there. And a lot of people on the shore are just going, it's not going to really develop into much. But all the economists and all the experts are saying that's a category 4 or 5 hurricane out there. I'd put plywood on your windows if you were me. And so when we talk about preparing for 2020, that's what fires me up about bringing all this talent on and gathering all this data and information. And Tom Ferry said it best. Tom Ferry, I was just in LA with him at Summit, and he said, everybody should have 2 business plans right now. One business plan, status quo. Your business is doing great. You're not feeling the market repercussions. You're not feeling any downturn in your market, right? So granularly speaking in your business, that's you. Mm-hmm. Business plan 2 is if that sucker out there turns into a category 4, do you have water? Do you have plywood? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to shelter in place? Or are you going to go to highland before it happens? At what stage does that happen? Category 2, 3, or 4? And I'm literally getting goosebumps again, because for me, that blew my mind in a preparation mindset. It's okay to follow business plan A, but have business plan B just in case. And so when we look at how massive this disruption can be with Zillow, I mean, listen, we all gave them our data in 2005. Every realtor on this channel and watching this show, we did it. Don't look at anybody else but us. We, through different avenues and things, we gave them the data in 2002, 2005, 2006 approximately, and now we're upset with them. Well, they're going to compete with us in the very, very near future. It's already happening with the iBuyer, and the iBuyer is going to be both a sexy subject and a really misunderstood subject as we move forward. But and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That's maybe a big conversation for another call. Sure. Unless you have really something specific to it. And I know you're doing an event in Portland in a couple of weeks that's going to address that specifically. But, can we transition a little bit, unless you have anything specifically left on that? But I'd really like to find out what you think the future of maybe independents are, and the future of, you're really big on a referral network. I'd love to transition and hear a little bit about that. Frankly, when you described it to me the first 1 or 2 times, because we are friends outside of this episode of Tuesday Titan Live, but it went over my head the first time. And it sounded like another opportunity, but it wasn't something that seemed as significant until I heard it the second or third time. And I think the viewers may have that opinion or not today, but would you mind breaking that down? You really are masterful in that area. And I think the viewers would get a lot out of it if they understood the concept of what you coach and talk about in your coaching practice.
One of the things that we've talked about in this call is looking for leaders. Well, if an individual has built a successful independent brokerage,
right,
they attract, retain agents, that is a magnificent way of determining if someone is a leader. Do they have any followers?
True.
Okay. So we've got an enormous amount. By the way, according to NAR, the independent broker makes up 51% of the agent populace in the U.S. It's a staggering number.
That's an astronomical number.
It is. And a lot of those are small mom and pops, but some of them are significant, okay? And they're led by people of influence. And so these are people that have built their little tribe, and they've established a really, in many cases, wonderful culture, and they're landlocked. They're in a situation where they can't scale that opportunity without undue broker liability and capital risk. And so one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the independent broker is because I see the platform that I represent, which is EXP, as a venue for them to be able to take this foundation that they have laid and scale that nationally without broker liability and capital risk, with my support and my support. And so I see that as a really significant opportunity for them. And first, as you know, we've had some join us already, and that's been exciting. But I think we really are just looking at the tip of the iceberg. And now that we're seeing that we're in the fall season and moving towards a winter environment, I believe that those folks will be more open to looking at a way to scale business, to attain a new higher level of profitability, do it without due risk that we have today. So that's certainly one of the things I'm excited about.
Very cool. I see that. And, you know, we talk about the big brokerages really having challenges in the future. I think the small indies could have the equal challenge of how do you compete against the big companies that maybe collectively pool their resources to develop a consumer experience, and the newer experiences of the consumers, which are all instantaneous, right? They want everything now. They want instant offers and all that thing. I think we'll have a lot of traction being a coach in literally, you know, outreaches of the whole United States and Canada, seeing that momentum that is heading the direction of, it is somewhat of a convoluted, broken system going through the transactional process of selling real estate. It seems like it should and can be streamlined. Will they ever replace the real estate agent? No way. There's no possible way you're going to get really representation and legal advice from an app versus an agent that is in your best interest. I just don't see that ever going away, but I absolutely see a significant portion of the transactional volume and dollars going that direction for ease and for simplicity and frankly, timeliness and certainty, right?
No, absolutely. And there will be people that have very simple transactions that will choose for a commodity-based transaction orientation solution. But to your point, you know, back in, I think it was 1995, Bill Gates was talking about this intermediation realtor, and as smart as he is, I think he came to realize that each and every real estate transaction is unique, and it also has a lot of personal emotion attached to it. And so I do believe that there will be more processes in the real estate process that are automized and made more efficient through AI and blockchain technology. I also believe that the agents that maintain a relationship-based approach, come from a contribution, will have a role, okay? So your best defense is going to be showing up, providing extraordinary service, doing more than you promised, and doing it in a way where people feel served and supported in what is a really big deal for them. In many cases, the biggest transaction of their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, it's been such a great interview with you, and I knew I'd start taking notes with you, and the blessing that you're sharing some of this wisdom of years. And before I get to my last question of the day, do you have anything else you want to share specifically around this space and topic before I ask my last question?
No, I would just say, you know, you mentioned that Tom Ferry suggested having 2 plans. And I would say that I'm not suggesting that people do radical things, but you can't be adequately prepared for the winter by waiting for it to hit.
True.
Okay.
True.
And so, to your point earlier, if the hurricane is offshore, man, the time to put the boards on the window is when it is still offshore. It's not when it has hit shore. Okay. Right. And so, and here's the other thing, and maybe I'll go back to my competitive background as an athlete, is the people at the top of any field of endeavor are absolutely relentless in their pursuit of progress and doing their best. And so let me tell you, man, if you're not doing something to improve your business day in and day out, it could be small incremental things, you are getting left behind. And then one day you're going to find out you're too far behind to catch up. And that's a really uncomfortable position to be in. So I just want to encourage your listeners to take small steps now, but take steps that will cause it to be of greater value to the consumer that they serve, to align with talent that can show them the way, because we're going to have to navigate some challenging things in our future, and then do it. Just do it day in, day out, and you'll have a very happy, successful career, in my book.
I love it. And before we get too far, why don't you tell people where they can get a hold of you? I know you have a coaching company. We haven't talked a lot about it, but would you give the name of your coaching company and some contact info in case they want to get a hold of you for coaching, which I highly endorse?
Sure. Thank you. Proinsight.com is where I do my coaching, and Don at proinsight.com is how they can find me.
Real simple. You probably don't want to give your cell number to the world, just FYI.
Got it.
I think Sean did, but Sean's a beast. He's like, let them all call me. I appreciate that, Don. So my last question, kind of twofold, but number one, what is your career accomplishment you're most proud of? And I think I know, but you might surprise me with a different answer. And then the follow part of that is, what are you most excited about in the next 5 years in this space?
Boy, you're making me think on this.
Yes, I am. That's my job, is put you on the spot. But, what are you most proud of if you look back at your career? And it could be personal, frankly, but I think the listeners like to know.
Yeah. Well, I would say that as a young man at 16, I moved to Florida. I finished school and I supported myself, and I did what it took to earn a place on the United States Olympic team, and that required having some courage. And by the way, they say that courage is not the absence of fear, but it is having the fear and still pressing on in spite of it. Mm-hmm. And that is how I felt. Dude, I slept with a knife under my pillow, okay, wow. at 16 years old, okay, because I wasn't able to afford a fancy place, okay, and but I did it, and the reps, and I became a top athlete in that sport. And so that would be my the one that probably holds the nicest spot in my heart.
And that was the one I picked, honestly, from reading your accomplishments and your history. I really thought it related to that. I mean, you have to be proud about being, effectively a national champion and in that Olympic space.
Yeah, well, thank you. But I would say that in business, taking an office, Roseville, that was essentially stalled and struggling, and take from 10 to 184 agents in 20 months. was a significant business achievement.
What was that number, from 10 agents to 184 in how many months?
27.
Yeah, that's a significant achievement anywhere you go or anywhere you'd look. And, that I just really appreciate the interview today and the time that you've taken for us. I know you're a busy guy with a lot of moving parts in your businesses, but thank you for that. Anything you want to share with us before we wrap up the call today?
No, it's just, it's really an honor to be on this call with you. And I hope that my message was of some value to your listeners. And if they have a question that I might be able to serve with, they can reach out to me, as you said, at don@insight.com. It really makes me feel good to make a difference for others, and love to do it.
Yeah, I know that about you. And frankly, that's why you are a Titan in my book. Thank you so much for being here on Tuesday Titans. And for my faithful followers and listeners, we've had a couple shows with massive success, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8,000 views on a couple of my past shows. And they're just actually picking up speed as we start breaking them into segments that are really, edible, and you can really soak in that information. So thank you for being here on Tuesday Titans. Don, thank you for being here on Tuesday Titan Live. And look for our shows in the coming months. We've got some really, really amazing speakers coming up. We've got Noli Williams, Noli.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Noli on the show coming up. We got Bill Pipes, the number 2 guy in the Tom Ferry ecosystem and world-class speaker. We got Bill Pipes, Noli Williams, and literally just a list of other rock stars just like yourself. So with that, Don, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. And thank you for all the Tuesday Titan listeners. This is a passion project of mine, and I'm really blessed to have you all here. Thank you, Don.
Randy.
Have a great day, buddy. Take care. Bye for now.